Welcome to Black Sheep and Bad Apples. I'm your host, Loren O'Brien. And we got ourselves a full house tonight. Thank you guys for being here with us.
You know what we didn't do? And we're going to start over a live sound check and listen to what it sounds like.
No, we're just going to keep going.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Bam!
So we've got our buddy Joe Dacey in the studio here with us.
Howdy, howdy.
How you been, buddy?
Oh, very good.
Good to see you.
Glad to be here.
Our what's it called? Resident storyteller. Thank you for being here.
What's
Joe?
it called? I like how you kept it gender neutral.
Yeah, I try to be as
There's got to be a little mystery.
in control of my own vernacular as I can be. And then Ron, who refused to be mic'd but is still here.
I'm the live audience.
He's the live audience tonight. Thank you, Ron. It's
Really doesn't need a mic.
He really doesn't. Thank you for being here, Ron. I appreciate it.
That's enough, Ron.
It's going to be a very fascinating topic tonight. Sean, I'm going to just go ahead and call you our producer. You're the one who does basically everything. I just talk into the microphones and you fucking get things going. So thank you for having us here again at Fourth Corner.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm very
Sean on the
excited.
board.
How's your night treating you so far?
It's working pretty well.
How many beers deep are you?
I'm not gonna count anymore.
Yeah, that's good. That's good because it's perfect for this
countless
podcast.
number.
It's perfect for this podcast. And a guy who our listeners may have not heard for a while. I'm very excited to have him back, Mr. Sam Mitchell. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hey, baby, how you been?
Oh, good, man. Good.
why
It
not?
feels good to have you back, man.
It's nice to be here.
I've missed
for
you.
Sure, I missed this.
We had a
This is,
very electric conversation before we decided to click record. And,
Yeah, man.
and so I'm very excited to
we always
continue.
do that.
We
Definitely
do.
do. Like, there's always passionate topics
Yeah,
to be
it-
discussed here.
yeah,
you know?
and-
we should record them.
It'll be an episode one day.
That was
worried.
not a recordable conversation.
It was not
though.
recordable.
Yeah,
We-
It's gonna
I'm
be
very
like
glad
the
we
unreleased.
It's a
kept the
touchy
mics-
subject, you know, for this PC nation.
Yeah.
Racism.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be like
We'll
the
get there some point, people,
Oh.
but we're not famous enough.
Yeah,
we
when
don't
we
have
get-
the clout yet.
When we get to our incel episode, we're definitely going to be touching on some hard N's and hard J's, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
That's a group we don't mind really
ripping on.
Clowning
roughing up
on you.
against.
They're pieces of
Yeah,
shit.
incels, flat earthers, Nazis, bigots, sexists,
Yeah, I mean-
motherfuckers.
Isn't it all the
patriarchals,
same?
Motherfuckers is
Pedos.
dependable.
Pedos.
Though. Like if
Oh,
it's
I mean-
consensual, it's cool.
Well, anyway.
No, it's,
Anyway, so-
Joe, it's
so
never
let-
cool. That's never cool. I don't know what to tell you, man. There's just something seriously wrong.
Moms
with
need
that.
love too, man. Well,
All right. So this is our final, and I'm very excited to announce third episode of our technological series of Black Sheep and Bad Apples, the reformatted edition. And tonight we're going to be talking about robotics and AI. You guys have anything to say before I get started on this? What is it? 3,700 word essay that I've written for this podcast. It's going to be a very long podcast.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I was a lot more excited until you told me that word count.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this topic. This
Yeah.
is one of my favorite things.
Well, and I really tried to keep
So
it
for me,
a sparse project. I tried to touch on like all the basics, and there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be leaving out tonight. But I am.
Are we gonna add science fiction into this because robotics and AI? I mean, science fiction. It seems
We're,
like
we're going to talk a little bit about that, but just so we can try to rush through this.
Yeah,
this
see, we don't
episode.
need to talk
Yeah,
about
we're,
science fiction.
We're going to go through it.
Because the non-fiction science
It's
of
much
it
more
is
fascinating.
actually just
Yeah.
super fucking amazing and beyond interesting. You don't need to fluff it out with.
oh yeah. Well,
Yeah. All right.
space.
I'm
So,
excited.
Let's
yeah.
get it going. Let's get it
Let's
going.
do this.
all right.
By the way, I broke my glasses, so I have to hold my laptop very close to my face
Oh,
in
he
order to
looks
read this.
old.
Tonight, we're finishing out our three-part series. I already talked about that. We're deep diving into what these robots can do and how they can do it. As you could probably tell from our previous episodes, technology is a fascinating subject for me, and I plan on doing more as technology advances. But for now, we're going to talk about what we have available. Like I've done in previous episodes, I'm going to break these down into a few different parts and explain what different robots can be utilized for and such. That was a terrible sentence.
Tell us about the robots, Loren.
we're going to start with something much more whimsical, and then we're actually going to get kind of dark with this episode.
Told you.
The most badass robots we know will be at the very end of this episode. And we'll end with a little bit of a terrifying kind of like Terminator stuff. It's not comfortable.
I don't like that little curl you got on
Yeah,
your
it's-
lip there. It's you got
it's
this
gonna be a dark
grimace.
episode.
I would
guys.
call it a cheeky grin.
Gonna get
Yeah,
pretty.
okay.
Yeah.
That's mischievous nihilism.
Ah, fun. Yes.
Yeah, that's what that is.
First, I'd like to describe two things that we're going to discuss tonight, or I'm going to discuss in this next little portion, which people want to correct me for. We're starting with automation, which is a mechanical process. Automation and mechanization are the direct progenitors of our current robotic models, and what we're doing. And while doing research for this podcast, I stumbled upon things that weren't exactly robotics, but were the earliest forms of these ideas. There's a difference between automation and mechanization, but I'm going to use both of these terms incorrectly and interchangeably. Yes, automation is, in the most strictest scientific terms, deals with mechanization utilizing the process of data input via computerization to more or less replace human labor. But I also want to umbrella the idea into saying something that functions on input to create an output. So like a seesaw. Seesaws don't work without an input.
Fuck, sorry.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. So, very much like stimulus and response, the seesaw thing. Shit, terrible writing. So I'll be saying automation, meaning automatic behavior, but it may be mechanization. I like the idea of automation and stimuli response. So I'm going to do what I want, because it's my podcast. As you may or may not have heard me say previously, technology is the extension of human ability, which is why we're starting here. Laying some more foundation, I want to talk about the etymological roots of the word robot. Because,
Slave.
yes, it describes what I may have failed to in my previous paragraphs. The word robot first appeared in a play written in 1920 by a Czech man named Karel Capek, which I'm sure...
It's Czech for slave.
Yeah, I'm very... Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I just...
Thank you for cutting.
Ding, ding, ding.
Right
I'll
at the
take
knee.
Slavs for 500.
All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and skip that part.
No, do tell.
Very helpful.
I'm here to help.
I'm not aware.
Favorite subject.
All right. So
Wait, what's your favorite subject? Oh, I thought it was Czech slaves.
Well,
in a play written
that's my second
in
favorite.
1920 by a Czech man named
Me and
Karel
Trump.
Capek. The play, Rossum's Universal Robots, was more or less about a factory that made human beings from scratch. And our typical way of seeing this world would be mechanical parts and computers and the like, but as a sign of the times, computing wasn't really a thing in 1920. So, this was a factory that built flesh and blood human beings. Essentially, they look and think and act like human beings, but are enslaved and enforced to work for the human beings. At first, they seem happy to work, and then later lead a rebellion, which ends up slaughtering the human race. Karel Capek's Robotnik was a, quote, forced laborer, thank you, Sam. And Robotnik ended up being the word robot. And the word robot nowadays, in the, I would say in the last 70 years has become a umbrella term for a lot of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the first little bits of mechanization, which I
call 'em
find
robots.
super cool. We're going to go way further back than I had ever thought we would, because mechanization and automation have existed for a very, very long time, guys. We can go all the way back to a person known as Heron of Alexandria, somewhere in the 1st century, to discuss how mechanization moved to robotics.
Clockwork automatons?
But first, has anyone heard of Heron of Alexandria?
No.
We'll start with Daisy. What do you think?
Oh,
Have you heard of him?
I haven't understood anything you said for the last like 5 minutes, man.
Well, you keep smoking joints like you can, like they're
Oh,
your
it's
scuba
very
tank for
interesting.
life.
It
I
keeps
love
the
heroin.
No, damn
it keeps the
Ron.
brain going, but like
Yeah.
I'm starting to get it, but I have no clue.
It's a very big umbrella. It took me 3 weeks to write this episode. That's why it was the last one.
Oh, I'm pumped.
So, yeah. So what do you know anything about Heron of
terrified.
Alexandria?
I have no clue
and you,
at all.
Sam.
Honestly, the name doesn't quite ring a bell, but like I instinctively am thinking about clockwork, automaton stuff.
So, yeah, he he made a mechanization process for something that's still around and we use in basically every college campus, every high school campus in the United States. And I'll give you a little hint as to what it is before we get into our next part. It's the thing that you go to during recess
The
or during breaks between classes.
Behind the school to smoke joints.
Yeah, the bleachers.
yeah.
Heron was an engineer and a mathematician who lived from 1080 till around 780. Numbers aren't exact back
I mean,
in the
did
day.
he invent the clock?
Who built a lot of stuff back then, but as I said, he also built things that are still around today. He was the inventor of the vending machine.
Oh,
but in his days, it just dispensed holy water, which makes plenty of sense for the day and age in which he existed. Yeah, you got to get that church money.
Huh.
He's credited with
for
the.
sure.
He's
They're the only ones that have investment capita.
Yeah.
If anybody else had investment
Bottle-
capita, they were
bottling
a
up
witch
that-
and they got burned at the
Yeah,
stake.
definitely.
What was the date?
He lived from 10 AD till around 7 AD, and so somewhere in there he built the first what we know now is the vending machine.
huh.
A.D.
AD, yeah. So I mean, they didn't have holy water before Christ, so it had to be AD.
Very true.
But yeah, this is like 10 to 70 years after Jesus. Quote. So,
And
he-
Jesus was.
we'll get in. That's for another
Okay,
episode.
all right,
We'll get
another
into that.
episode,
Yeah,
another
the big episode series on Jesus.
I think he played that backwards, guys.
So he's also credited with the water wheel and the candle clock, and I want to get into the candle clock. A candle clock was a chunk of wax that had different sections to indicate time. So with 12 sections, each burning at an hour, you could fairly accurately tell a 24-hour day cycle. The candle clock was also easily modified. One would push a nail into the desired alarm time. So when the wax melted, the nail would fall from the wax into a metal tray, making a loud bang. It was the first alarm clock.
Huh.
Heron of
Sounds
Alexandria.
like Rube Goldberg designs.
So Heron is a very
Yeah.
clear example that human ingenuity in the mind for design has been around for a very long time. We didn't start getting recognizably good at it until the advent of the industrial age, though. Which brings us to our first robots, guys. Here we go.
They've been here too long.
Somewhere between 1937 and 38, a company based in Mansfield, Ohio, called Westinghouse Electric, created a 7-foot, 265-pound robot named Electro. Electro was one of the first of many robots that would come out of the 20th century. Electro boasted some serious technological advancement for the age unto which he was born. He was controlled via voice command, yes, like Siri is, and could walk around if asked. Utilizing a 78 RPM record player, he could speak around 70 words. Hilariously enough, he could smoke cigarettes and blow up balloons because it's 1940 almost, and you gotta have a robot that smokes cigarettes.
What was the
Gave
thing's
him
name?
lungs?
Electro, the company.
Yeah, it sounds like an American Gladiator.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, again, if you're gonna be remiss in the 1930s, 40s, if you're not gonna build a smoking robot.
I like how the idea of like replicating a human in a robot form still involves smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes. It's
It
like
shows you
now
how,
it
like,
won't
antiquated the robot
decapacitate your
was.
lungs. Now you can hang out with. It's just like everybody else. It's,
Gotta let him
He's
relax.
just like you.
it's,
He's a real
he's
boy.
normal. It's like a real person. Look, he smokes too.
So they even designed him so he was able to remove his arms and head as well. He mostly did promotional appearances during the 50s and was mainly just an attraction for people to come and see for Westinghouse's technology. Now, Britain, a couple years before, about 10 years before Electro in 1928, rather than 38, Eric the Robot became the first British robot. Originally built by First World War veteran Captain William Richards and aircraft engineer Alan Riffel. Eric wowed the nation when he made his first appearance at the opening of the exhibition of Society of Model Engineers in London in 1928, which is a lot of words to just say a bunch of people getting together that were like at the fucking cusp of technology at the time. Now, there was a lovely article published by Jade Fell on the website Engineering and Technology that we're going to quote from. After his debut, quote, after his debut, Eric toured the world before mysteriously disappearing without a trace. That is, until earlier this year when the curators at the Science Museum tracked down lost blueprints from the original Eric in the museum's archives while researching a new exhibition. In June 2017, the Science Museum launched a Kickstarter campaign to bring Eric back to life to star in the forthcoming major exhibition, Robots, which is what our episode is about tonight. So it seems fitting. The campaign was backed by 861 Eric enthusiasts, raising over 50,000 pounds, sterling pounds, British money, allowing the museum to bring Eric and a second robot, Inca, which I may have pronounced wrong, back to life.
And did they bring him in a ring and let him fight?
Well, we're gonna get to that because
BattleBots?
rather we're not gonna get to that because these were not BattleBots. These were very, very early versions of robotics. I don't even think anybody had. I think people just had pipe dreams in this day and age about.
Yeah.
Well, not in 2016, but yeah, back when. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna get back to it. Standing 2 meters tall and made from polished tin, the new robot has been made as close as possible to the original Eric and comes complete with the characteristic RUR logo on his chest, along with the vicious-looking mouth that flashes. End quote. Now, RUR stands for Rosson's. What is it? Oh shit, I lost it. It's Rosson's Universal Robots, I believe. Yeah, and so it was literally made as a to pay homage to Capek, who wrote the play about Robotnik, created the word robot.
I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, really cool. So he is and was a terrifying red-eye medieval knight in armor. This Eric the robot. Unlike his future counterpart Electro, he couldn't walk, but he could stand and bow. He originally could give a 4-minute address to the audience, but I'm not sure how that really translates to the current museum iteration of him. But the craziest thing about fucking Eric was how fucking dangerous he seemed. For the record, he never hurt anybody, and he couldn't even walk around, so nobody could no little kids could walk up to him, right? But the BBC did a documentary called Hyper Evolution: Rise of the Robots, Part 1, which I'll include in the description here in the YouTube comments in which you're listening, where they discuss Eric had a mouth that was filled with 25,000 volts of electricity. Quote, 25,000 volts of electricity, causing blue sparks to shoot from his jagged teeth, end quote.
Fun.
I think I was closer before.
It's not a safe thing to have around kids.
Yo, a
But that's-
taser has 110,000 volts.
Yeah, and he's not going to kill anybody by any means, but
at that day when you're a kid and you're around it, that's pretty exciting.
yeah,
You know
well,
what I
and
mean?
10,000 volts is what they use to keep animals away from electric fences.
I'm just
So
saying, this also was a time where you had to look out for yourself because you couldn't just sue people over shit because
true.
you fucked up.
It's
yeah.
1930s.
Right. They were like, oh, your kid stuck his hand in the mouth of the
Your
electric
kid got
robot
hit by-
lightning mouth? Are you stupid?
Your kid got hit by a car. Well, I guess it's your kid's fault, not the
Yeah.
car's.
You can't blame the guy.
So,
Fucking accent
Jesus
from where?
so, I like the accent. So it seems he could have been, if you wanted to, you could have weaponized his mouth as a taser, but he was just an early cute little robot that could give speeches.
Yeah, cute.
Now, when doing this research a couple weeks ago, I stumbled across a website called robots.ieee.org. It's a real website, very funny name. If you want to get a bit of a laugh, it's got an archive of available and unavailable robots. It's a great place to go and has been a great treasure trove of ideas and research for me and my technological delvings. So go check it out. I've seen many. There's been so many robots, guys. There's been so many robots. But since things are going to get really dark, I'm going to show you guys a video here in a minute. But we're going to talk about this thing called cubelets. So for some whimsy, we're going to go ahead and talk about the cubelets. Robotic blocks. They do stuff. It's kind of literally their gimmick. They just do stuff. They're blocks that do things. They're cubes containing both software and hardware. And according to their website, there's 3 types you have sense cubes, think cubes, and act cubes, and putting them together, it allows them to sense stuff and then like drive away from or towards a stimulus or something like that. And they're essentially a starter program for robots, and are used in classrooms to teach theory of the complicated aspects that is robotics. And you can have a robotic sense darkness, and you can have a robotic sense darkness, and using an act cube move it towards light. You can have them spin and make sort of all sorts of weird stuff, but it also seems like you can attach Legos to them, which is kind of cool, but they might also have their own like copyrighted version of these things. I'm going to show you guys a video here during the break. Whatever the case, I don't know how exactly you're supposed to learn from them, but I want to play with them so bad. I only brought this up because we're going to take a small break in which to watch this promotional video called, quote, Cubelets, thousands and thousands of tiny robots, end quote. I had a serious debate about whether or not I should play a portion of the entire video here on the podcast, but I'm just going to let you guys go as the listeners and watch the video. It's hilarious, educational, and again, it makes me want to play with these things so fucking bad. So we're going to take a short little break. Go check out this Cublet video. And guys, are you here in the studio ready to watch this shit?
Oh, super ready.
Very curious.
I've never been more ready in my life.
I'm
All right.
robotically ready.
And break.
I peed myself.
Uh-oh.
This week's episode of Black Sheep and Bad Apples was brought to you in part by the following contributors. Fourth Corner Studios, creating music and entertainment productions since 2007. The City of Hayfork, where the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. The Filderbrow Foundation, closing the gap between eyebrow separation. And of course, by listeners like you. And now back to Black Sheep and Bad Apples.
Welcome back to Black Sheep and
No,
Bad
shut up. They all
Apples.
know who we are. How much do these things cost? I want to know right now. Let's get right to
Do
the
you know
meat of the
more
matter.
about these
If you
crazy
didn't
troll
watch
items?
the fucking
I'll
video
look
about
it up.
Cublets,
You guys
you're
need to watch
missing out
the video
in
of
life.
Cublets.
They're crazy.
They're so cool in the
What are they
video.
from?
He's so
The
cute.
dog is like, I don't know what's happening right now.
He's so
He's like, I'm just gonna sit on the couch.
God damn.
Dude, Cublets, little man.
Dude, their website is just like I don't know how to. Honestly, all of our listeners need to go watch this video because I don't know how to sell this product without showing you that video.
They're robot Legos. They're badass.
Yeah, they're robot Legos.
Yeah,
They're I mean, they're pretty expensive apparently.
So
Yeah, how much?
100%. Like I also saw in my mind the final evolution, the Omega Cublet, like
Yeah.
whatever, and like the world being like converted into these fucking Cublets because somebody fucked up and it became sentient. Like the Cublets and AI got
put
together, and
humanity
Elon Musk
together.
couldn't stop it from happening, and the whole world got turned to Cublets.
No,
They
they're-
start attracting each other, so they just like start
They become
finding
this
each other.
amalgamation of like
becomes Cublets.
So they
like,
are quite
and-
expensive at $1,400 for the what was it called, the mini makers pack.
That's the
it's
small
Mini
pack?
makers
It's
pack.
designed for students because it is a very school oriented thing, and I imagine all the robots are very expensive themselves. But it includes 52 Cublets, and it includes, and I have no idea what this is, 2 Bluetooth hats. HATS hats. No
All right,
idea.
Do you think they take weed?
Probably. I mean, you saw the guy in the
I
video?
did. I'm
right?
asking because
I'm very
of that.
excited. You can make fun with these robots like you and bumblebees do. And I don't have fun with bumblebees. I don't know about you
do.
guys,
Yeah,
but
I
Have
do.
fun with bumblebees.
the video is
Cool,
just,
yeah.
oh my god.
I liked his Lederhosen-esque, like Swiss Alps. Like
He was
I'm just a cute little
very
gnome in the
gentleman
woods.
boy.
I'm a gnome.
Did you notice the picture of Abraham Lincoln next to him?
Yeah, he was a fucking weirdo.
But like,
100.
he's like,
But
all right,
he's
I
a
put
good
this
weirdo.
here, and the people from America buy from me too.
But he's like a really cool weirdo. Like I would buy his products that he's selling because those are
Like I don't
Very,
think that
very
dude's
cool.
ever gonna be on a list. You know? What
Oh
I
no,
mean?
he's on plenty of
Good.
lists.
not the list that you're
Not
like.
he sells toy robots to kids.
You
Never
start
mind.
on
Be
a list if you do that.
He's gotta be. So back to
Aren't
the
we
podcast.
gonna try and get this guy to like give us free shit?
Cease
I
and
really
desist.
want him to give us free shit. Yeah,
Or a cease and desist. One of
yeah,
those.
yeah, one or the other. That's
Go one way.
so. Automation and robotics have stemmed from very primitive points at this point in my research. I'm happy to express the fact that this kind of technology was, I think, an inevitability for which we can be appreciative. And since we've covered a brief history, rather, of robots and discussed the whimsies and novelties of the current robots, we're now going to see
very
that the
brief
novelty
history.
has been replaced by function. Yeah, it's a brief history. It's an hour and a half podcast. So, function over form brings us to a little company that we talked about last week, or the week before last, called Sarcos. They make robotics. They make our sweet-ass... I'll just read the thing. If you listen to our previous episode about
They make
human
the suit?
augmentation, you'll remember a company that makes the
LexCorp?
extremely fascinating Guardian XO, the exosuit that allows you to lift things at a 50-to-1 ratio. Well, Sarcos, the creator of that exosuit, has also created a small remote control robot called the Guardian S. The Guardian S differs drastically in form and function from the XO. It's got long, flat tank treads that, depending upon the model, can be magnetic, which allow it to climb up really like ventilation shafts. Really, really cool stuff. Despite it being a very useful and awesome tool, it does look rather silly. It looks like if two treadmills were attached via a rope, like a nunchuck with tank treads. So if you had two nunchucks and they were attached with tank, and that's yeah. So the Guardian S is a remote visual inspection robot that, according to Sarcos' website, can, quote, reliably traverse challenging terrain and facilitate two-way, real-time video, voice, and data communication, all at a safe distance, end quote. It is designed to be used to determine ingress and ingress of risky situations like disaster response or hazmat situations. It's mostly applicable in
It's a
search
tank
and
snake.
yeah, it's a tech snake.
It's a tank snake.
Yeah, it's a tank snake. It's a-
100%.
yeah,
Look at it. It's all
honestly,
here it is wriggling around.
I
and
just really
shit.
liked the definition of it being two
like
tank
a
treads
nunchuck.
with
No, I
with
can
a,
totally- I can
nunchucks.
totally
Yeah,
see
that's
that.
what it
Yeah.
looks like.
Fucking A.
Yeah,
Oh, it even looks up in the air.
yeah, it's really cute. Honestly,
It's kind of cute.
yeah, it's kind of cute.
In like a into the world way.
yeah, in a very end of the world way, very dystopian. Which
better than
we'll get
Cublets.
to. No, I don't know. Cublets are anyway. I'm just gonna read the thing.
want these damn
It's mostly
Cublets.
applicable in search and rescue and intelligence
Cutest
gathering.
robot overboard.
God damn it, we had enough money for mini packs.
Every-
Build the Godzilla. Ah!
Everything must be cubes. It's
the world became Minecraft.
so the Guardian S is remote controlled and can get into very hard to reach places due to what I describe as its very silly looks.
Do colonoscopies.
Weighing, I don't know about that.
Whoa.
Weighing at 17 pounds, the Guardian S is easily carried and is deployable in less than 2 minutes. It has a variety of sensors such as, again from Sarcos' site, quote, infrared, gas, vibration, GPS, accelerometer, and sound, end quote. It boasts a very impressive 3-mile battery capacity, which can also translate to 12 hours of 360-degree video coverage and is overall a very useful
Right. Yeah, it doesn't
little
move quick,
robot.
so it doesn't use a lot of juice.
Exactly, yeah,
Right.
and so it's very slow. It has a lot of magnetic capabilities, and it's mostly designed for like long-term search and rescue and like kind of keeping what I would understand as keeping an eye
Oh
on your
yeah,
victims.
you see this
and
thing
they-
and you're like, this is something that can find its way down through a pile of rubble.
yeah. Well, and if it,
100%.
when you see this thing, I was picturing being a person who is being rescued, and then seeing this little treadmill nunchuck snake coming out of this corner, and then like this voice, "You are being rescued. Don't worry." Terrifying.
Died of a heart attack. Survived the collapse of the building, but Grandma died of a heart attack because she thought all of a sudden it was War of the Worlds again, and she was a little girl. Like,
She's like, "I knew it would happen in the 20s."
Rescuers are coming in 15
Do
hours.
not panic.
It's like, I don't trust it. I don't trust it.
yeah, there's a ton of applications for that kind of stuff. I love
Yeah.
those little like gizmo robots and stuff.
It
Like
seems-
super purpose built.
Yeah, and what I like is that it seems like how people take drones and they go and take really good photos and stuff, but it feels like strapping that to an RC car, which sounds silly in premise, but going out and having really good like photographic features on a single camera and being able to actually go out and kind of explore these areas and bring back intelligence and results. And in the case of like artists or the CIA alike, it's a pretty fucking neat tool, really.
One and the same.
Yeah. I do wonder what it. I do wonder what it would be.
Yeah, I got some
Our resident
conspiracies on that, but
storyteller.
yeah. No.
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, I didn't in my research find that Sarcos takes any DARPA money, but we are gonna get into something about
You
that
wouldn't
later.
find that in your
It
research.
gets shuttled through black market thing.
It does. It does. They love the shell corporations and all those things. So, Shark Robotics, getting into function. You guessed it, makes robots. These robots are designed with you in mind. Well,
Shark.
well, yeah.
Shark robots?
Shark robots. They're designed with you in mind.
Mecha shark
Well,
versus
with the quote, the man in mind. Not necessarily us.
So these are the ones for colonoscopies.
They are a French company, Shark Robotics, that designs and manufactures robots for situations that are dangerous for human beings in which to participate. Which was bad grammar. I don't know why I wrote it that way, but I did.
I
because you
understood
didn't have me edit your work.
I mean, I've been doing a lot of Spanish classes, so I'm learning I'm losing my English. So I'm
I thought you were
including
gonna
a
say
quote.
you're fluent in Spanish and you're just learning English
Yeah,
now.
just learning
Like,
English
This
now.
is him learning
doing
English.
very well,
Yeah,
though.
great.
Yeah, doing very well. I'm including a quote from Shark Robotics' website because I find it hilarious. Quote, Shark Robotics is a French company that designs and manufactures unmanned ground vehicles. They didn't include the burp, that's me. Leader on the market, thanks to
wrote
its
that out.
robotics skills and in precision mechanics, Shark Robotics guides its customers for the engineering, the development, the conception of robotic platforms to keep the man safe. Shark Robotics intervenes in fields such as the defense, the industry, the nuclear. Shark Robotics combines power, reliability, and robustness.
Robustness.
They,
They're making sexy robots.
they're
aren't they?
making some sexy robots, and they
Oh, yeah.
definitely have
Tis a robust robot.
they've got a grasp on the English language.
That's
and I don't
like
mean
the one from the Jetsons. She was robust.
yeah, and I'm not trying
quick
to
with a
clown on
soul
people who
selection
are
of
English as
R&B.
a second language, but I just found they said something along the effects of "We are engineering for the man." And in their website, you can literally see them with just cops and firefighters just everywhere. And so, like, it
Just
felt
stock
very fitting
photos.
to include that into the episode. So, Shark Robotics makes a creature, well, robotic creature anyway, called the Colossus. Their firefighting Colossus is a remote-controlled robot designed to go into and be efficient in very arduous circumstances. It's got a series of different attachments that allow it to perform a variety of different tasks, weighing in at around 1,100 pounds. This heavy-ass piece of equipment boasts a 6 to 8 hour battery life, which is life, which
That's
is
Bad.
pretty
Yeah.
reasonable, yeah.
pretty fucking impressive.
Which is probably why the thing's really heavy.
Yeah, it's
Lot of
mostly
battery
battery.
Yeah, a lot of battery weight. That's always been the problem is battery
A lot
weight.
of junk in the trunk of that Colossus.
Yeah, and we'll get into-
Robust.
It's robust.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get into some of its
Keyword
other
bust.
features here in a second.
Thick with tooth C's, man.
So it's made of aeronautic aluminum and has the ability to crawl up 45-degree angles, including stairs, making it a very versatile and agile robot. This bad boy can haul up to 1,200 pounds of material, and it's even designed for transportation of injured people, utilizing its sweet-ass tank treads. I am always a big fan of tank treads, guys. You'll never hear me boast more
What's
about
the power of the tractor tread?
the tractor tread. It has a variety of features, and as I've discussed, it has three different as I've already discussed, rather, and has three different control tablets. The reason I'm including this is because I was like, why is this necessary on your website? Like, you could just tell me about this in person when I'm spending the upwards of $100,000, I presume, to buy this thing. Anyway. 3 different control tablets. The first being the IK Shark controls the vehicle up to 300 meters, which is 900 feet, which is pretty impressive, and enables the user to pilot the vehicle and the water cannon. The NX Shark offers a waterproof and crash-resistant tablet with a 500-meter range, 1,500 feet, while the GTAC Shark has a ultra ruggedized tablet, which I made capitalized because I wanted to emphasize that on their website. And as we can note from their lack of acknowledgement, has no change in connection distance. So it's if you get the
Just
third,
tougher.
it's just super tough. Yeah. It is a small variety of optional attachments, including a smoke extraction fan, which is pretty cool. And what I learned is called a PTZ, which is pan tilt zoom camera, rather. So it has the PTZ attachments and a extra battery and a hazmat and temperature sensor. I thought the extra battery I should note because it's like most of the thing is pretty much battery already, but you can get more battery.
Always
It's,
get a
yeah.
little more battery.
It's extended life.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
It's like a StarTAC.
You don't want to get halfway into
We're talking
something
about a
and
big
have the
butt,
battery
right?
run
Like,
out
this
when you
is all
just need
a
to go a little
metaphor for
further.
a
No.
big butt.
A big butt.
Upgrade the
Big
battery.
old battery booty.
Nice, yeah.
Jesus. So what do you guys think of robots so far?
So you said this one was a firefighting robot?
Yes, it is. and
So
it's
it
remote
can go upstairs. It can get into those. Now, is it all like thermal? I guess assume it's all thermal protected. So like,
Yeah.
if it goes into one of those rooms with the backfires rolling across the ceiling and the this and the that, it can hit that certain spot that would be deadly for firefighters
Yeah,
to get to.
and I
that
don't
would-
know enough to tell you the limitations of it, but I know enough to tell you that it is designed to basically go into very hot rooms. I'm not going to say rooms, hot experiences. So there was this one video where it literally turned on a cannon, water cannon, and then moved in close to these burning cars. And I'm not going to predict at what temperature they were burning. And with the water fanning them away, it seemed like it was going to
Okay,
keep a
so-
lot of the heat away. But from what I know, they're built very strongly, and I would imagine that they can, since they're designed to go upstairs, can go into these fucking rooms that are
I'm a-
literally on fire.
Yeah, I'm
But I
picturing.
don't know
like,
enough to say
hover.
that as a fact.
I'm picturing like a tall apartment building that's lighting on fire,
Yeah, that's
where it
what I
needs
was-
to go up a few flights of stairs
Where's
and get.
the practicality with that, though?
What do you mean the
Like,
practicality?
Well, if you're trying to save somebody from a fucking burning apartment building, if you're gonna send a robot in to where a human can't go in to fucking survive that also while they're trying to fucking save somebody who is also a human,
You're
what's the fucking point?
I'm
Well,
really glad you're here for this episode.
for one thing,
Thanks,
Ron.
man.
I'll answer that for you right away. For one thing, it's not all about saving the potential people in the building.
Yeah, robots
Just
don't
putting
give a
out the
fuck about
fire
people.
is an important part too. And if you can't get into the center of the fire to get water there, you're not going to put the fire out. So like, you risk
Yeah.
other structures around
The
thing burning,
epicenter, the
you know?
epicenter of the fire might be harder for an actual firefighter
Yeah, it
to get
create-
to stop it.
It creates like
so
a
if they could
collateral
send in
effect.
a robot to,
Where there's
At
well,
least
well,
with the distances we're talking about with these robotics, as far as their remote controls reach, it's not important because that shit is spreading already. Like,
Joe, do you remember when
it's
do you
more to,
remember,
like, save somebody.
Joe, do you remember last week when earlier today when I told you about how last week when we recorded,
Yeah.
everybody got panicked about the new technology?
Oh yeah.
That's happening right now.
And this,
it's like
this
it's
is
a
actually
robot.
a pretty good one. This,
It's a,
yeah,
it's a very impressive robot, but why can't it do this other thing?
Well, in my head, I immediately went back to civil rights days, and I was like, oh, if they had that, then they'd be spraying these water with.
They wouldn't even be spraying them in the civil rights days. They'd just be like running them over in the
yeah,
in the, these- oh,
as
man.
long as like, we're at a pretty good
This-
pace right now, I think
yeah.
the fire department can use some lives saved.
Yeah.
That robot I'm all right with.
Well, and just touching on it,
not for nothing, firefighters and
Deserve a
EMTs
lot, but-
have the highest rate of suicide out of any profession.
I was gonna
in
make
the
fun of them
country.
right now. I'm glad I did.
They, like anything that we can do as a society anyway. Just like to help them not do that so much, including like not having to be the person that puts the fire out on while you're standing over like the dead body, like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those. That's why those things are important beyond just rescuing people.
Yeah, because
I-
it's not so much about physical trauma, but touching on what Sam's saying is that there's a psychological trauma that comes with that kind of stuff.
There's also an intensely high rate of cancer from exposure to the
Yeah.
chemicals of a burning building and
Well,
stuff
and-
like that.
I was a paramedic for 2 months just to get my license and start traveling.
Was this in China?
No, this was in America.
Oh,
I was in
okay.
South Carolina, And the first time they put me on an ambulance, I had to go clean up somebody who died getting caught up in a combine harvester.
Jesus.
Like they just gave me a bunch of
Right.
little black bags, and they're like, "Yeah, just get as much as you can." And that was like my first day on the job, and they were just like, "Yeah, like if you can't deal with that, like you probably shouldn't even think about keep staying in the career." I'm like, I wasn't. I was just trying to bump up my resume to go out out of the country and work.
Yeah, and there's a lot of robots that we're not going to talk about tonight, but I do want to thank the robotics industry and the robotics world because there are machines now that are capable of doing surgery so you don't have to you as a doctor who spent 12 16 years getting this degree don't have to go into a room and have this person die on you. Rather than that, we have these automated processes, if I'm getting my facts correct, which I might not be, where if somebody has a appendicitis, you give them a CAT scan, you feed it into the information tube that Heron originally created, the data output kind of system. And then what happens is you get this output of this machine that comes in and will literally cut out your appendix. Will cut out, any kind of, situation that you have. And so it's like, I don't want to say it like this, but I wish that somebody would automate picking up dead bodies out of a combine harvester.
Well, that also
Right, and for sure, a robot would be better at that if you could figure out how to make a robot that could do it.
Yeah, because that's the point that I was getting to as well with the doctor.
It wouldn't
It's a rough job.
have to experience the emotional content of it.
Yeah.
For one.
I asked for a shop vac, but they just
No,
wouldn't
that's
give it to
that's
me.
an
Motherfucker, it
act.
seems like it's more applicable for them to try and fucking do those things like fucking clean up the fucking organs splayed across the field or whatever, as far as like saving people from a burning building. Like fucking.
Why wouldn't you
Yeah,
do
but
both?
also the technology that's being created by Shark Robotics is meant specifically to keep people out of harm's way, which means less dead bodies. And so while
the robots to clean up.
while I agree with you, we need to build robots that can clean up bodies out of combine harvesters. I think firefighting might be a
As
bigger
far as
priority.
Emotional distress, yeah, sure, probably.
I mean, as far as any of these things, look, I don't understand what your complaint is.
I just like to
Because
think
you're
of
definitely
like
complaining, but I'm
He's
really
afraid
not
of
sure
robots,
why.
which he should be.
you're
to
a-
complain.
You're just an obnoxious Luddite. I get it. It's cool.
Thanks, man.
No worries.
Yeah.
Me too.
Luddite. Hey, Sam, since you're back on, Mr. Professor Sam, can we go ahead and define what a Luddite is? Because
let's
we're
use the
about to get into some
Word
Luddy
of the
shit.
day.
With
Yeah.
dictate.
How does that dictate? Luddite. Well, Luddite comes from, it's a historical origin. The Luddites were workers from the cotton and wool mills who felt that their jobs were being taken away by the mechanization of the mill.
Cotton gin, yeah.
And so they basically waged a war against those machines and went in and rioted and broke the machines.
Because the machines were too good.
Well, they definitely worked better than the people did.
Why don't? Oh man.
And so that's where the term comes from. But today it means it's a slightly derogatory term for someone who is afraid of technological advancements.
Which is exactly
Thanks, asshole.
what Ron is.
And so I would hazard to say that if you are just complaining about robots for no other reason than you're sort of scared of them or you don't understand them, then you're kind of a fucking Luddite.
Which
Well, see,
we'll
I'm
touch
scared
on
of
that.
robots too, but I think it's because they're slowly taking our soul. But
It's taking our soul?
yeah, because
What do you mean by that?
eventually we're just gonna be one uniform thing instead of these like individual I think the age of robots really gives a more uniform look towards everything, more automation, more
I don't think so.
I like them like doctors. I'm slightly nervous about them. I don't really want to visit them too often, but if they help me out and keep me alive longer, they're a very purposeful thing of our society. We need them around. You know? I'm okay with doctors being
What do you think about
employed.
robot doctors, though, Sean? 'Cause
That's
the-
exactly. That's where it gets
What about a
touchy.
robot doctor that can pass a Turing test?
Would you be
See,
racist
that's-
well,
against
no,
That's
no,
what
I
I'm
don't want that.
All I'm saying
It'd be
is
the best doctor ever.
But yeah, then he realized he's like, oh, I kept telling you to lose weight, that you didn't do that the last 5 times. You're dead now. I'm just gonna kill you
All
because
right.
you haven't worked.
See, that's the ideology of
I
the
just
Luddite.
I just try
in
not
some
to get
sense.
hurt, so I don't have to see a
sometimes
doctor.
they're right.
Well, and for the record, I think we should all very much fear the way technology should be shaped. As we can see, technology, like in the 1940s, was used to create the worst thing that we ever have known, nuclear weapons. And so, like, we should have a very healthy, at least skepticism of robotics and technology, AI, anything
That
like
guy
that.
regretted making the
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Obama.
We
made
Oh, yeah.
it's very good to have a healthy
Oppenheimer.
skepticism of
Yeah.
this subject.
Just like
but
a
I don't
Keurig.
think
Creator
fearing
of
it is going to
worlds,
be
destroyer
helpful
of
toward.
worlds.
Because I brought it up to Sam earlier. I was like, the more I've done research on this podcast for this technological series, the more I realize that the human race, we really just want the Jetsons world.
Yeah,
We want
well, yeah.
everything automated, and so we should fear technology because it's terrifying, as we're about to get into. But we're
I
also
heard-
looking for a Jetsons world, so let's not be Luddites and fucking fear the advancement that we seek to create.
But the thing about the Jetsons world, you know what's at the bottom of all those buildings there?
I don't.
The Flintstones.
Oh shit.
You gotta have a
got real dark.
Yeah, man.
We're gonna have to touch on that on a fucking different episode.
So you know, like, yeah, this stuff is troublesome. It can be scary for sure. It should be.
it should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
But there are just some things that I guess, for me at least, the way I see it, there are just some things that will eventually happen if we, as a species and a society and a civilization, persist and don't set ourselves back, technologically speaking, over much. Eventually, we will create AI. Eventually, we will create a bio-neural interface, and we're gonna have to either evolve or die. Like,
Yeah,
and that
it's-
evolution
my-
will
my
be one
philosophy-
that's a technologically driven one.
Yeah, my philosophy is technology is the extension of human ability. And so as long as we understand that we can extend our reach 9 more feet rather than the 2.5 feet that most people have, that's what technology should be. And anything other than that, a reach of what we can do, I think is kind of strange. Not to say that automation and AI, which we'll get into here in a minute, isn't a very fascinating one. But I think the extension of human ability is why we should not be afraid of technology. Because it's literally the plow. Are you going to be afraid of a fucking plow?
Well, you're only afraid of a plow if you're in front of it.
Yeah, it should be, you know?
Fair point.
But there's also the whole idea that like nature is also anything that we create. It's not unnatural.
extension.
It's
we
us
are an
creating.
extension of nature. Is
Yeah.
exactly it.
Yeah. So and
That's
like
real.
you can't stop
Everything we
the
do.
creation of it, but like I think it's just important to be hesitant and weary of it. But it's
That's-
all gonna happen either way.
That's a great point.
You
for
should be
us.
hesitant and weary of a chimpanzee with a rock in its hand.
Oh, I'm very
Let alone
hesitant
a
with
rocket.
You should be really wary, actually.
So that's a great point for us to. Yeah, that we're gonna end on that for just a short little break. The idea that we aren't separate from nature, and then technology is a part of nature.
An extension of nature.
An extension of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're
That's how
gonna
we make those big organic spaceships that when we turn into the Greys thousands of years and come back from the future and like visit each other.
Yeah.
That's what we see.
Conspiracy corner with Joe Dacey.
Wah, 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 wah.
Next
Wow, wow, wow,
segment.
wow, wow.
Joe, you can only travel forward through time.
Oh, you wish, man.
And break.
Cut my balls.
The No Shave Club for Men. Now for the new low price of $19.99 a month, we'll send you no razors, so you have the excuse not to shave. Join the No Shave Club for Men. Bill Rise Dryer Guys, old-fashioned whiskey-drunk dryer mechanics. Call us today for your dryer service. Haberdashery, fun to say, hard to find. Do you remember? Support your local haberdashery. This message was brought to you by the International Milliners Foundation. I Could Have Said Products brings you Foot and Mouth. Anytime you think you could have said, apply Foot and Mouth. Foot and Mouth by I Could Have Said Products. And now, here's a little bit more of Black Sheep and Bad Apples.
And we're back.
Oh, we didn't do the original 20 count for that.
No, we didn't. We normally do a 20,
4 count.
19, 18, 17.
Gets
But
us
now
ready,
that time we
like-
just did the 1, 2, here we go, and click the button.
Then I push the button.
Do my vocal
So here we are.
exercises.
Talking about robotics. Thank you guys, our listeners, and thank you guys, my guests here
You're
in the studio.
welcome.
I'm going to say the following is going to be a bit more strange than the rest of this has been. The reason for that is being that we're going to get into some robotics that are steadily moving into the realm of Carol Capek's book, rather, his play. With our current variety being made out of robotics and artificial intelligence, rather than flesh and blood. These robots, with their combined abilities, can become the kind of humanoid androids that we've come to know and fear. Like the movie iRobot, or Ex Machina, or Machina, depends on how you pronounce it. Our descriptions of robots and AI are directly rooted in the creation of the idea of the humanoid mechanism that Mr. Capek depicted in his play. So
More
before
of a
things,
Short Circuit fan.
yeah,
Johnny
I'd like
Five.
to say that we're talking about the play. That's where the term robot came from.
Yeah.
But the idea of like a machine that mimics a person is much older than that. From
it's
like the
been
1700s.
it's been around for, and maybe I just was I'm a hack.
Jacques something or other was the first guy to create this clock. It's a clock. It's basically a clock that plays the flute and looks like a person.
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
Stumbled-
it's the flute player. It's
He
a
was actually somebody
clockwork
that
automaton.
I had to cut out of my all,
Yeah.
like the 4,000 words that I have for
Right.
this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to cut them out.
So it goes back.
Unfortunately.
That's not a new idea, I guess. That's my only point.
No, it's not a new idea, but it is.
Yeah,
It was something that he had thought about and was like, we're in the industrial age, and so we're gonna be able to build machines that make human beings. Is what his thoughts were,
right.
and so that's kind of where I'm basing that.
No, I
last
think the automaton
paragraph.
was just a mimicry of life,
definitely
in a sense.
definitely
You know,
was.
like a painting.
Yeah. And so, before things get too weird, because things are going to get very weird and very dark very quickly, I'm going to introduce you guys to a little group called Boston Dynamics. Now, before we get into it, I know, Sam, you're going to be last because I know you got stuff to say. What do you guys know about Boston Dynamics, though, Mr. Joe?
They work down at the docks. They
Nailed it.
They like those chocolate donuts with cream in them and
know
baked
that.
beans.
Okay. I don't know that much about them, about their dietary habits, but you're very close.
That's all. Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Ron, what do you know about Boston Dynamics?
Dude, are you fucking joking me? That was fucking pandering. Obviously, I know as much as Joe. Seriously, come on, Sean. What's your portrayal of Boston Dynamics?
They like dags.
They like dags. Yeah, I'm sure a couple
Down
of
by
them
the
do
dock,
like
they're
dags.
drug smugglers.
At least a couple of them. And Sam,
I mean, Boston Dynamics is one of the world's leaders in robotics.
they do
for sure. They're they got some of the smartest motherfuckers
sexy
working
stuff.
for them.
Yeah.
They definitely like paved the way in autonomous robotics.
They're
They made a robot that can like jump over shit and do backflips. Like,
we're gonna get to that.
fucking things
So,
terrifying.
put a pin in that. Yeah,
They're
'cause
doing that.
I don't wanna
while
have
they're,
to
like,
fight
as I
that.
said, this is taking a really dark turn, but we're starting off light.
The nice thing about
So-
robots is that they all need electricity.
Yep. We can just fucking unplug them. So Boston Dynamics, they are a robotics company, obviously based in Boston, and they have created a robot we're going to talk about now called Handle. Handle is one of the future's best friends, assuming that capitalism can sort out the issue of replacing people who need to work to live with robots. But that's an entirely different conversation.
You sound
We're
like
not
a
gonna-
Luddite,
We're
too.
not going to get into that here in this podcast because it's a different conversation. Handle is a robot that is designed for warehouse work. The robot is a flexible, wheel-based system utilizing deep learning technology to locate and manipulate boxes. Its versatility to palletize, depalletize, and unload trucks is given thanks to its 9-fucking-foot arm and its wheel system.
That's what
It's-
like Amazon has.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get into that.
Oh, okay.
Its wheelbase provides for smooth rolling action and is easily Smooth rolling action and easy maneuvering allow it to perform efficiently. It has a weighted ballast on the back of it that can move forward and backward to make corrections and to stabilize itself. But it looks like a very strange robotic duck that has, instead of a head and a beak, a 9-foot suction cup arm with a weighted ballast tail. And while that's a really cool robot, it's a really cool robot that's in line to quickly steal all of our jobs.
Shit's wet.
Thanks, Amazon. We're gonna steer even farther into this dark corner. So, what do you guys think about industry taking your jobs?
I'm all right with it, but what I'm not all right with is being the first generation guinea pig with it, because I really feel like a lot of people are just gonna like get.
We're gonna die.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of injuries. It's gonna run right over us.
There's some crazy videos, like that robot in China that punctures like I don't know, it hit a guy like 3 times in the stomach and killed him. And
What the fuck?
Amazon, like their robots have killed like 3 people.
I didn't hear any. I
Oh,
didn't see-
they're deep in like they're in there. Like one of them, he like
Oh, it's
one of the
China
robots,
too, so they hide everything.
one of the
Yeah.
robots ran over a can of bear spray and like blew up in the factory and like.
What in
Before
the fuck
you
is
could,
going
like-
on in China?
There's a lot. Actually, I think that those were in America. Like the whole big thing with them is
That's
like,
called an industrial accident. That's
Exactly,
not like
but,
Rise
like-
of the fucking robots.
no,
Yeah.
no, but like they're not smart enough yet for that. But like
Yeah.
right now,
We're
like
people. We used to put kids in factories with like giant spinning wheels, and
How
like
many
the kid
times-
would just, oh, where'd Timmy go? He got sucked into the 12-foot wide leather belt that runs
do you-
the facility.
Forget about Timmy.
Do you guys remember right after the Crusades when a bunch of fucking orphans decided to storm across Europe, starting in Britain, and 50,000 of them got abducted by pirates, and the other 50,000 of them starved along the way? Yeah,
don't
pretty
remember
cool.
that.
Yeah, interesting stuff. But we're not going to talk about that tonight, because what we are talking about is more Boston Dynamics. Sam, what do you know about Atlas,
big book with
the human guy?
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
one that jumps. That's the
Yeah.
flipping, fucking
The
running robot.
flipping,
Did you call him a
fucking
guy?
running robot.
I
called him a guy, yeah.
it's pretty
Oh,
humanoid
I
in
like
shape.
that.
It's more humanoid than most of their stuff,
I've seen the
for sure.
I've seen the
Yeah, I'm
GIF
pretty
of
sure I
it.
know what you're
All right, so
And
we're gonna.
yeah, the video of it like
black and white
jumping,
one,
like it's
like-
doing parkour. It's fucking doing parkour. Like,
We're gonna delve into that a little bit here. So
mathematically perfect parkour, which looks really sketchy.
the humanoid robot Atlas, that as far as I'm aware is the most sophisticated type of its technology, and I have no idea how to truly describe the specifications of the robot, as I am not an engineer. So while I don't have any academic credentials to speak of, I do want to discuss Atlas's abilities. For all the listeners that have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, Atlas
Google that
is
shit.
the most versatile,
You've seen the
dexterous,
GIF.
and nimble recreation of human abilities. I've started following Boston Dynamics. Jeez, if I could get through one of these sentences without fucking up, that'd be great. I started following Boston Dynamics a few years ago, and that's when I very first saw their first humanoid. And there was several well-publicized videos, the first few of which show a variety of 4-legged technological creatures doing some pretty amazing things for technology in the early 2010s.
Ooh, that scorpion dog thing.
Scorpion dog thing. There was they had like
mule.
there was the mule
That
or
mule
the
thing
ox or
was
something like
cool,
that,
the
and then
ox,
the
something like
dog.
that.
I know they kept Spot, which is something that they're still working
Was
on.
that the one that like barks and does a backflip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there's actually a really cool video with Uptown Funk called Uptown Spot, and it's really cool to watch. And you see Spot, who has he's the 4-legged robot, but he still has the scorpion arm,
Right.
and he does a really cool
The
fucking
actual
video.
interacting arm thing. Like
Yeah.
opens doors with it.
Yeah,
and
and
stuff.
the video is really good. I would highly recommend
Like
you guys watching it.
the dog from Rick and Morty.
Yeah, because he's like, well,
no,
no, this is more
not anything
robot
like that.
than dog.
Well, yeah, but when he has the arm
have
that
a
comes
head.
over.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly like that arm. Yeah, yeah.
Where are my testicles? Son?
Where are my testicles, son? So, Atlas was first debuted in 2013, and we've seen this awesome creature grow in dexterity and creative movement. You can find videos online with titles such as Boston Dynamics' Atlas Robot Can Do Parkour,
Plug.
and Get Some Air Atlas,
Plug.
and more Parkour Atlas.
Plug.
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 They are super cool to watch, and the technology is just It's fucking absolutely stunning. I can't express to you guys how cool this guy is. But do you remember when I told you guys
Keep
this was
calling
going
him
to
a
take a
guy,
dark
man.
turn?
It took a dark
Oh,
turn.
You remember when I said that
Yeah,
that's what we were
show
going
us
to
the
do?
dark, baby.
Ooh, robot porn.
This is the turn of darkness. The best thing about Boston Dynamics is Atlas is that he is not designed for combat. You'll find a video online of Atlas shooting guns, but just fucking relax, people. It's a parody video made by a company called Corridor. So, Atlas does not shoot guns, but he probably, and eventually, will. But it's great that we're not there yet, right, guys? It's great that we're not there, right, guys?
Yeah.
Shit, you think that's dark?
What I mean to say is,
feel like
I
we
mean, I
aren't
saw
there.
Terminator when I was like 8 or something.
What I mean to say,
Motherfucker, humanity's worse than that. Like, come on, man.
Well-
Fucking, fucking
You know what? You know what?
robotics
Robot
will
soldiers.
catch
You
up
know what?
to
Robot
fucking
soldiers don't do?
Humanity.
Rape kids.
Yeah.
well,
know what
I
guys,
mean, we
like-
don't know yet. Well, like, we haven't seen what the AI.
right. Sure, of course. Yeah.
It's classified.
All we need is one mean scientist to make one mean robot. And, it'll
That's
just
a
spread.
scientist who's a sexual predator, not
Yeah.
a robot.
It'll happen.
so like,
Bound to be a sexual predator of a scientist.
you guys,
Oh, it's so sad, man.
the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, which is known far better by its acronym DARPA. It originally debuted as just ARPA by President Eisenhower and was a direct response to the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957. DARPA formulates and executes plans to launch the U.S. into the forefront of technological advancements. In 1972, ARPA changed its name to add the D, which I find is particularly funny in our millennial way of saying things. The organization more or less creates technology for the defense of the United States, and Boston Dynamics
I love that it
loves
took you
their
like
money,
10 seconds to get the dick joke there. I was
and
going to touch it.
most likely will continue building their pseudo predator. But again, the dark turn we talked about. The best thing about is that it's not designed for combat, and we're not there yet. We're not there that Atlas is gonna shoot, right?
You said
Introducing.
Uh-oh.
Well, actually, I want to read this because it's very good writing.
Predator drones.
Shut up.
Like,
So, so,
These are just like college students making robots that are shooting people.
so Atlas does not shoot guns, and again, he probably eventually will. But it's a great thing we aren't there yet, right? Now, when I say we, I mean
this fucking
I mean
leading
the U.S. Sam, could you just wait? Fedor is a similar robot to Atlas. However, it can shoot. There's videos online of the Russian bot shooting guns at targets and doing so very accurately. In September of 2017, alarm was sparked online by this video, and the media wanted answers. Then, Deputy Prime Minister, I'm going to fuck this up, Dmitry Rogozin addressed this by saying Russia was not trying to create a Terminator, but rather working on development of its Terminator, rather.
plug.
Come look at our new robot, the Terminator, but rather working on its development of its AI technology. They even sent Fedor to space in 2019. But we'll talk about that another time because, as I've said several times tonight, things are getting fucking dark.
Yeah, you keep saying that,
Yeah.
but we still haven't really. Where's the darkness, man?
Sophia's
What the
story.
fuck does the meaning of darkness mean to you? God damn it, Loren. From an audience member.
Are you done?
Boo.
Because I'll continue when you're ready.
Ron, shut the fuck up.
Sophia's story is a very tragic one. A tragic, scary story that is entirely relatable to all of us who are human beings. According to the headline by Wired.com, Sophia is, quote, the world's first robot citizen, which is pretty terrifying, right?
Oh yeah,
This is some
read-
AI
I
tech.
I've seen this.
We're getting into some
Yeah.
AI tech right here, guys.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
cool. I
Yeah.
like her.
But the headline isn't over, guys. She's, quote, the world's first robotic citizen condemned to a lifeless career in marketing. With
Like anybody's Sam Dave. Oh.
with the byline, i.e. the headline under the headline, being Sophia the robot was given the gift of legal personhood. Her reward?
Personhood.
An eternity in marketing.
What?
And the best part is she looks so much like the fucking heads in jars from Futurama.
So so this is the very dark, sad, dismal story of human creation that we ended up designing another thing to be designed like human creation, and it ended up in the same run of human existence. It literally just ended up in like marketing hating its job. And it ended up in the same place that we have all come
Did
to
you
know
just
and
like
love.
give this thing emotional content?
I did, because well, I mean that Wired.com article is not an encouraging one. She's again, I'll quote it: the world's first robotic citizen condemned to a lifeless career
a
in
robot
marketing.
though, not
Yeah.
a singularity artificial intelligence with feelings or anything like.
But I definitely encourage all of our listeners to go and read the article. It talks a lot about robotics, and they talk about robotics in the direction that I'm not going to tonight, because there's a lot of like policies and stuff like that I'm not going to get to. However, Wired.com did bring a lot of very interesting stuff to me. Before I describe to you guys what Sophia is, I want to talk to you guys about, and we'll just get into it. So I will say that there's a lot of issues surrounding the legal status of, quote, electronic persons, but we're going to talk about her, Sophia, particularly how terrifying the ideas surrounding Sophia are, not just the actual person who is a robot. Rights are a very difficult thing to discuss. A lot of people are still down on labor unions, but the 1910s gave us the rights that would become the 40-hour work week and weekends. And women's suffrage was the movement that gave women the right to vote nearly 100 years ago in the 20s. In the 50s and the 60s, we saw people of color marching for their rights. But we also have people in the current age trying to fight for their right to, say add P for pedosexual to the LGBTQ logo, which
Oh yeah, those
fuck
are
that.
scumbags. Yeah.
Fuck
Dude,
those
that was
people.
that was
They're
just
pieces
like
of shit.
That was like a
Just
straight
listen.
up
Just-
misinformation campaign.
Yeah, it was definitely that. It was definitely that. And we also see that men, insert frowny face, are trying to fight for their, quote, right to fight for whatever woman, to fuck whatever woman they want. We also see the resurgence of Nazism in their, quote, right to free speech. So rights are kind of a scary thing, and they can go one way or another when we talk about it. So there's a lot of issues coming with electronic personhood. Sophia is a very interesting idea, not only because is she high tech, but because she's also giving us new ways to look at the world. We see the world from a throne in which we claim dominion over everything, and in which we claim dominion over everything we've created. And many people see Saudi Arabia, who first gave her legal personhood, they see Saudi Arabia's legal status of legal person as a step in a terrifying direction. It's terrifying to ask ourselves, what is human, what is not? Where does consciousness begin and end? The very creation of Sophia, to me, shows our incredible power, our incredibly powerful existential dread, but also our political issues and rights in regards to the.
So is
in
she
regards
still
to the rights of
making
others.
70 cents to like a man's dollar out there? Or what?
She's probably not making any money. She's a robot. Somebody created her. And so,
She's a thing.
yeah, what will happen?
Somebody's making money
Her
off
name's
of
Sophia.
So, like,
And she's a
My
person.
my car's name's Goldie. What like just
But
because
your
my car
car's
has
not a citizen.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's a
she
thing.
is.
so that's where we get into some like really,
Yeah, it's
really
weird.
weird robotic stuff. It's
So would she have to start paying taxes? How's that?
So what will happen when robots begin demanding rights? What actions will they use? Will we have to incorporate a parallel to human rights? Are they going to use the same protest strategies that we do in order to get rights? Will we live alongside each other? And honestly, I've got way more questions than I have answers. But I've
Just
talked
gonna
about
turn
the
off all our
issues
pacemakers.
surrounding Sophia, and we really haven't talked about her much yet. Sophia, a creation from Hanson Robotics, was activated on Valentine's Day in 2016. She's a humanoid bust, head and shoulders, baby. Head and shoulders, baby.
Who's not looking for a bust on Valentine's
That can
Day?
that can display more than 60
Yeah,
facial
it's
expressions.
so cute. It's
And her-
gross.
and her AI capabilities have led a lot of reporters and researchers to be dumbfounded by how human-like this non-human is. She can speak and be spoken to like a normal, non-technological human being, and she's now been upgraded to have legs and feet. But we're not going to talk about that. I want to talk about how intellectual she is.
She got legs and feet, but no torso and arms.
Perfect woman. the incel crowd is just going fucking stark mad too. Also, we didn't even get into sex robots, which I'm pretty disappointed about. But that's another
why the
series.
incels
Yeah,
chime in.
we'll talk about that in the incel episode.
Yeah,
There'll be
definitely,
plenty of time for that.
Just torsos, no legs
Because-
or arms.
We give them rights before they really become fully sentient, and then all those incels go crazy because they'll never be able to fuck a
They'll
robot.
never
like
be able
they
to fuck a
think it's gonna
robot because
happen.
robots make their own decisions.
That's why I'm all right with robot rights.
Hell yeah, robot rights all the way. So Jesus
Sentient rights.
Christ. Yeah, sentient rights. There we go.
Sentient rights.
So I
All
mentioned-
sentient creatures deserve.
Watch your mouth.
I mentioned in a couple of our previous episodes
Derogatory term,
the BBC
robot.
documentary called Hyper-Evolution: Rise of the Robots. I came across Sophia's newer sister, Erica. Erica is an
Oh,
AI
someone
android
upgraded.
that consists of just a bust, head, and shoulders.
When you say that, like bust to me seems like cleavage. I know it's the like the statue thing, but like
But you're immature and childish.
I just see like
Churlish.
a head with big boobs.
He lives.
Robotics, for instance.
Yeah.
He lives in Havework. You can't blame him.
Yeah, you can't blame him. Can't shoot him down for that. She's
two
a
women
thinking,
in this
computing
whole
android who has a
town.
lot of personality
3
for
boobs.
literally somebody with zero personality. She even makes jokes during the interaction during the BBC episode or
Did you
documentary.
just
I
say
don't like him
she
joking.
has no personality?
Her name is Erica. Yeah,
No
she's a thinking,
personality?
computing android who has a
So-
lot of personality for someone who literally has zero personality because
Right.
she again is a robot.
Isn't that what every man wants?
I mean, that's again for another discussion, buddy. Another discussion.
Sean,
Obviously, you guys are all
fucking
single.
resident
Misogynist.
patriarchal, misogynistic asshole.
I'm just spiraling it down, all the way down.
Hey,
with
why
the
don't you cut
robotics
that
thing.
soul patch a little
So I'm
pointier,
gonna-
you fucking
it's-
creep?
So I'm gonna play a video here in the next few minutes, but I do want to note that you guys are gonna be watching this video here in the audience, or not
Can't make me.
audience, here in the studio. And she makes a fucking joke, and I want to read you guys the joke that she makes. After discussing the interviewer's favorite feud, she makes the feud. She makes the
favorite family feud.
family feud.
Welcome to the Family Feud.
After discussing the interviewer's favorite
dinner.
feud, she makes the comment, I hope you had breakfast this morning. Talking too much about food makes people hungry. And then she literally punctuates it with a So fucking weird.
Is that creepy for you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, when we watch the video, it's going to be creepy. She's an AI designed to learn and to learn, and from what I could tell, she's designed to be a conversationalist. And each interaction gets her better acquainted with human interaction. I'd like to show you guys this creepy ass clip from the BBC documentary. And if you're listeners at home and you want to hear the clip, I'll be playing it from around 6 minutes till around 9 minutes and 26 seconds. And we're gonna come back from this short little break to react to that.
Another way to look at life brings you self-respect, pride and confidence in oneself, a feeling that one is behaving with honor and dignity. Self-respect by Another Way to Look at Life. Cheap tambourines. They look pretty and they sound like hell. Cheap tambourines available everywhere. I drank too much coffee and I got the jitters. Going on tour this summer. Get your tickets now at Ticket West. OnStar's new Drunk in the Trunk. Have you ever been locked in a trunk and a little too drunk? Use the new OnStar service, Drunk in the Trunk. Get out of all your drunken trunk needs. OnStar, servicing America for generations. Thank you for listening to a word from our sponsors, and now back to Black Sheep and Bad Apples.
So we just got done watching our BBC interview with Erica, the AI humanoid companion robot. I don't even know how to describe it.
Conversationalist.
Conversationalist, exactly. What do you guys think about what I just showed you guys to start?
I'd like to have one.
So the thing that
It's like I was just gonna say it's like a really upgraded Furby.
Yes.
I mean, you're not
Solid movement.
you're not wrong.
Yeah, that's a really
$1
good
Furby
call.
or-
Yeah, like the rich kid's Furby.
Yeah, you're not incorrect in stating it. Sam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
I mean, like, it's clearly not a human,
Very much so.
right? There's no. This is the thing, like the mathematically perfect movements of the Boston Dynamics robot Atlas.
Atlas, yeah.
Right? There's something off about that level of perfection.
Yeah.
When something's too perfect,
Uncanny Valley.
the uncanny valley thing.
Is that a real
but-
term?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
that's what
like
that means.
that's about our perception of like Erica.
Yeah.
Like she's too perfect. Just too
Yeah.
like her movements are not fluid like our own. Right? Our movements they're natural.
She's very robotic.
Sure, for sure. So like
there's no
you
body.
can tell
language
it's not
that's-
you know it's not a person. Like right away before the mouth opens, any of that, you know it's not a person.
You're not getting the
I
body
wasn't
language you
expecting
would get from
to
that.
fucking be fooled on a Turing test by watching that video.
No.
The thing that I got on was the guy's reaction to being asked, well, when she responds to him, his question about being a robot, she responds to him like, you know, well, what's it mean to be a human? Or, you know, like, he asked her what she does as a hobby.
Yeah, what are her?
And she was
yeah.
like, "Oh, like I can't go anywhere, so I just sit here and sort of like think about the meaning of my existence."
And isn't
And she was like, "What about you?" And he was like, "Oh, well, more than that." And there was this gloating nature
Yeah,
to
I
his
heard that too.
response. And I was like, that's the thing that caught me.
So
'Cause
do
it
you,
was
do you think
like,
that
that's-
there's classism in robotics now?
that attitude by people
Yeah.
is going to be the fucking thing that causes robots to rise up against us.
Fuck
Yeah, yeah.
It's not going to be the robots just by themselves.
And by no means-
because
I want
they
it on
exist.
record. I think Sam's a robot.
And by no means, Sam's not a robot. And he, and
we'll
I,
see.
I would have, I would,
Anyway,
Jury's not
shit,
out on
moving
that one.
It's
on.
getting too smart.
I would have I would think that you were a robot.
Cut his
more
legs,
than I
see
would.
You
the
guys
wire.
like sports, right?
I also like sports.
Your mouth
Sports
moves.
go
No, but,
on,
but
sports.
I really like your
Go
thoughts on it
sports.
because it's very. I like the sports. I really like your thoughts on
The
it because,
sport team was
because
great
it's
last
fascinating. Because you know, as I described in my script, she's got so much personality, but for somebody who has zero personality.
Well,
Like she feels robotic, and but what I really enjoyed about watching the interview that we all discussed, you guys will see it as I've already described in the description. But she's fascinating. She really, like, she asks you these questions that are very poignant, and I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say that she's probably programmed to make you question whether she's alive or not, which plays a lot into that.
I'd be very curious, like a game almost, to see how much it learns based on my interaction. It's almost
How great would it
it's
be if we
almost
could have her on the
intriguing.
podcast?
No, it's almost intriguing, like a something you could just set up here, and then instead of spending time on a video game and developing it and stuff like that, I just keep quizzing this thing or doing whatever my interaction is to see where it goes, because what you do bases that AI's reality, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
Well,
for me, you could ruin it or wreck it like a video game.
Yeah,
I could
because
tell it the most
like,
horrible
that's
shit in the
still-
world and make it a racist bigot type of crazy shit and stuff. Or I could tell it other stuff and it would be the most best person you've ever met in the world, but it's based on the input. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm really curious of that input value.
Yeah, like
of
there's actually a really interesting thing that happened on Twitter where somebody, I think it was Google, they introduced this AI conversation bot, and within like 12 hours, the shit was spewing racist ass
I'm
shit.
sure.
Like everything about the hard J words and just the hard N words and just like
What is
spewing.
this?
I'll have to look it up and I don't know all the facts, but I think it was on Twitter or maybe Facebook. One of the two things. One of the new social platforms. Google or Microsoft, one of the two, created this conversation bot where you can go in and talk to it, and it would learn as you interacted with it. But not a lot of regular people interacted with that. Only like very racist, like 4chan and 8chan, like neo-Nazi incels interacted with it. So after like one solid day, like literally 24 hours, it was tweeting things that were just super anti-Semitic and very racist. And so they had to pull the plug on the damn bot because literally the only input that it got was
It was
terrible.
corrupt. Like, yeah.
It was bad
Right,
people.
Yeah.
right. But that's like no, I get that. Right? Like it's a computer algorithm. It's only works as well as you make it.
Yeah.
And that's why when
Right.
the AI hooks into our internet and finds the stuff that we've been putting on there since like the 90s, they're gonna learn some real
It's like,
weird, horrible
plug a
shit.
bot into the internet, and now it's just going to have porn for 90% of what it has in its brain base.
Would you guys
and
say that
it's-
it? Would you guys say that it's very
Yeah.
much like Heron's invention of the vending machine, where you put a coin in and it does the teeter-totter thing and releases a little bit of thing? Like you gotta, what you put into it is what you get out of it.
Oh.
Well, to some extent,
No, I like what you're
it
going
must
with that.
be right.
It has to
and
be.
that's the
Yeah.
fear, right? Like this is always the narrative in the movie where the protagonist learns how horrible
People
humanity
are being treated.
is
Yeah.
and can be, like its capacity for
Inhumanity.
for inhumanity,
Yeah.
right? And that like heartbreaking. Why would I even fight for some species that does this? You know what I mean? And the fact is that like we're gonna make an AI eventually. It's gonna learn all the stuff that we've done, right? But it's gonna have like logic circuits, not emotional states. It's not gonna be able to experience PTSD, right? It's not gonna be able to experience a childhood of abuse.
Well-
right? It's just gonna have its heart broken. That's it.
Well, having said that,
And that's not all we do. We don't just destroy each other. We don't just fucking do bad things, right? We also create.
Genocide.
well,
Shut the fuck up,
genocide.
man. You know what I'm. You know where I'm going with
That's
this.
beautiful.
We
No,
create
but-
beautiful things. We create art. We fall in love. We write
But
poetry.
none of that's on the internet.
well, and see the
So, motherfucker, AI is not looking at the entirety of the internet, right? So
But-
AI, like Erica, is based.
Not
on
those are
No.
closed
No,
systems.
no. That's a closest. We're talking
Yeah.
like AI singularity. Like
So futurism.com is a website that is very notable for being very technologically advanced. You can look this article up. But somebody, and I can't remember who, just recently came out with an article that was talking about how we can make AI technology and robots, how we can make them subservient. And in a very fucked up way, as we've already heard from Erica's testimony, that she contemplates her own existence. These people have created the idea that, well, and I don't mean to say these people at futurism.com, but the people whom they're reporting on, have created the idea that if we create fear in a robot's mind, that it will be dismantled and destroyed, that they will be more subservient. And I find that so fucked up, because what we are essentially
Scrap
doing
pile.
is we're like, hey, we fucking hate being alive too. You guys want to join us but live for 1,000 years and be afraid of everything?
What-
It's just like the worst.
What I think is interesting is the choice of, because my mind has fluctuated with a little bit just based on what I've heard, is the elimination of emotions but still some emotions. So what I've kind of feel like I'm concluding in my brain is that we as humans are deciding what emotions to try and put into AI technology.
Yeah.
And that's becoming, say, fear. But we don't want what you were saying earlier.
Ambition.
We don't want them to rise up and
We don't want them to
Yeah,
rise up. We
ambition,
don't want them to
exactly.
have this, emotional state in a certain way of they just make rational decisions. They just do that. They just calculate. But we do want this like compassion. We do want this. There's certain other
Well, variable.
the meaning of life. That's an emotion and stuff, But we also don't want them to have destruction. We don't want them to learn how to kill us and type of deal and rise up and stuff. So it's interesting that we are starting to parlay, I feel like, what emotional values and how we're trying to figure out what that actually means, like the genres of emotion and what we want to compute that as and input it into a AI technology and allow them to even develop with.
Right.
So
Because what do we not like about the human race that we have developed because of our free will of understanding and learning, that we're like, ooh, racism's bad. Leave that out of the programming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
leave
something
that.
we're getting picky on it, but then who is to state what emotions are valuable and not, and what's developmental and not, and what's scientific or not?
Well,
the one AI
in the
that
world
was
of
racist
robotics,
and
it's
the
going
one
to be
that's
the creator that ultimately decides that kind of things.
so that's
Something we talked
Yeah.
about last week was
Until we get the laws in place.
yeah, something we talked about last week was actually a company called Cyberdyne that's creating an exosuit for handicapped people to get
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah, you're right. To get physical therapy. I didn't realize this until doing further research because I'm a terrible researcher. That Cyberdyne is literally the name of the company that created the Terminator.
yes.
It's literally the name.
Wait, you didn't realize that?
I had no
Wait,
idea.
wasn't it
But, like, I
Skynet?
thought it was very similar, and it
Cyberdyne
rang familiar.
created Skynet.
But yeah, it rang familiar. But I was like, it's got to be slightly different because there's no way that you'd name your company after the Terminator.
Raccoon City, coronavirus.
No, there's another.
I
move
saw that
online.
too. Yeah.
So, what are you guys' ultimate feelings on robotics and AI technology? How do we think that we can make a more? Do you guys think that the Jetsons' life will be ever a feasible thing?
I don't think it'll be in our lifetime, but I think like we will see something very close to it. Like the advances are already like in the last 10 years are incredible, and it's just gonna get faster and faster.
I don't think we'll see flying cars ever.
No.
It's not feasible, man. Fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson said it best, man. The flying vehicles are already a thing. Tunnels and fucking, the fucking subterranean vehicles.
That was Musk.
So, what do you think about the Jetsons world run?
It's not gonna happen, man.
No, you don't
No,
think?
because there's already a fucking platforms for fucking flying vehicles. They're just not actually flying.
And do either of you two have Joe and Ron? Do either of you guys have fears about technology coming to take your jobs and murder you? Because it literally seems like it might be
Well,
a feasible
definitely
thing.
not, man.
No?
Because, like at the very
Yeah, well,
least.
We'll be dead by then, hopefully.
Well,
Climate change is a beautiful
fucking
thing.
I
everybody
won't.
dies and things.
Sean, how comfortable or uncomfortable do you feel about this?
So I'm always about advancements in technology, and to be honest, you always have to push the limits.
Yeah.
If we stop ourselves as a human race at pushing advancements in technology in any direction,
We're kind of fucking ourselves.
then we're not an intelligent being anymore. We're not pushing forward. We're not doing any of that. So yes, are we going to push some limits that create some fear and some anxiety and some mystery of the unknown? Absolutely. But that's kind of living to me, So anybody that's going to try and push forward in life, I think that's kind of great, and we got to test boundaries all the time.
So-
Are we going to make some mistakes here
We're
and
gonna
there?
break a lot of eggs.
Are we gonna?
Like-
Yeah, but that's how
Yeah.
this world
That's what I
works.
keep thinking about.
Occasionally you push something to the limit because you have to know the answer, and
Yeah.
if you don't know the answer, then how are we to have hindsight.
Yeah. Before we get to Sam, I want to ask you guys as a collective: are you guys afraid of the future?
Fuck
Yes or no?
Fuck no.
No, I'm not afraid of. But what I am afraid of is the way that I live my life is not gonna be feasible anymore.
Yeah.
Like I especially
you?
for my kids.
Yeah. And you?
Fear? What fear of the?
Do you fear the future?
Oh no, not at all. I look forward to it. I'm hoping we demolish the telephone and make something way better. You know, what I mean? Like something like we.
So it's something we talked about in a couple episodes ago.
Bluetooth.
Okay, I mean, as
Yeah,
somebody,
the Bluetooth tooth, baby. Air Nux, Sam.
but as somebody
Boom,
before
baby.
the telephone was invented, or the internet, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
or any of those things and stuff, if you could have even imagined it, and now that it's here, you know the value of it
want a
and what
jet.
you could have feared, knowing what it would have brought.
Yeah.
You know,
So Sam, I do want to get to you. What do you think of our current technology? Well, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you two questions. Are you afraid of the technological advancement that we're currently under in regards to robotics and what we've discussed tonight?
No.
And are you afraid of the future?
Would you
No.
fuck a robot?
Like
Ooh.
a sentient
She
Robot
would
that
fuck
was-
any robot.
that like was convincingly human,
No.
or just like
Rosie.
or just like one of those weird like
bear-
cum milkers
bear
from Japanese
stealing
hospitals.
wires.
The
you
first
know,
one we
it's-
saw, the nunchuck with the tooth.
It's got tracks. It's got tracks.
It's got a name.
What about Rosie from the
Also
Jetsons?
removable pussy lips.
No, I don't think I would. I don't think I would fuck a robot, Joe.
Okay.
So, what are your thoughts on robotics and AI technology and how we proceed into the future, Sam?
I mean, to me, like what we're really talking about here, like robots are the coolest thing ever. Really,
They
they
really are.
They really are. Like the
I
fastest
agree with
moving
you about
man-made
6.
object is a robot, right? The furthest thing that we flung away from us, Voyager 1, 13 billion miles away. It's a
you-
fucking robot, right? It's been working for 40 years now, right? It's got a mission life of 40,000 years, right? It's
Dumb
designed to
record
go
on it
to
with a
another
bunch of weird
star at
shit.
38,000 miles an hour. That's what it's doing. That's a robot, right? Robots do stuff that we can't yet do.
They
A
are the
robot-
extension of our abilities.
They are an extension of us. And when you start talking about making a sentient robot, making AI, like true AI, we're not talking about making a slave. That's the problem with that
Yep.
terminology.
Exactly.
We're talking about making something better than us,
Yeah.
right?
And that's where the fear
We're-
comes from,
we're-
if you ask me.
we're-
An
will
extension.
robots rise above us? No, we will place them there immediately upon their creation.
Yeah.
They are better than us
Assuming
in
capitalism
some ways,
doesn't,
and
you know.
eventually they will be better than us in all ways.
Are you
That's
gonna program that into their AI to where
it.
they're
Will be.
better than
They will
us?
program that AI will program itself, my friend.
think
Robot
that's-
It's
cuck.
from learned experiences. So if humans treat them like bullshit, they're gonna create a revolution to fucking upspring against.
Well,
it.
that's what I said.
I really wish that you would have had me mic you tonight,
That's
Ron.
literally.
Fuck, man.
Hey, Ron, I already said that. That's that guy's attitude, that superior attitude when he answered the robot's question about what
Yeah.
he likes to do. Oh, more than just you.
More than
You know what I
you.
mean? Like, yeah, sure, that attitude's not going to fucking help us, but also consider the fact that we're creating something. It's from us. Like, part of being in existence is to understand your surroundings and to understand where you came from. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that just like we're immediately gonna make like some master race robot that's just gonna put us under its fucking jackboot. Yeah, like not like
Hey,
and
robot.
Nazi
Hey,
robots.
robot Hitler.
Like, no, but I do think that like if we ever want to like get off this planet, which I think is a good idea for that's the purpose on some level. If we want to explore our universe more than just through a telescope, we're not going to be able to do it as humans. We're going to
Yeah.
have to do it as robots. And that's going to require all of those things that are so fucking scary. And it's not going to be like the Jetsons. It's going to be like every revolution that ever was. It's going to be fucking messy. And it's going to be
Dangerous?
dark and dangerous.
You're talking more
And
about altered carbon.
and Darwin and Darwin's
No, what I-
fucking rules will apply.
What I think
And we
he's
will
talking-
evolve.
What I think he's talking about
So-
is really just like the existentialism that comes with being a mortal human being, and the ability, like what I really enjoy about robots is the ability to create something that will be quote unquote cognitive far after you're dead.
Why
It
is
will
that a
constantly
thing,
be
though?
learning.
Why do we want that?
Well, honestly, if you ask me, it's because we are all afraid of fucking dying, because we know we are all gonna die one day, and that's just an inevitability. Which is why we're doing podcasts like this. Which is
Yeah.
why people create robots. Which is why people send things way out in the fucking midst of literally interstellar space. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to leave a fucking lasting impression. And what I find
Never
fascinating
Because we're
about
people.
robots.
I've
And
never
we
understood
scream into the
any of those
goddamn void, man. That's
like,
what we do.
motivations.
And somebody told me making music and making noise was the most punk thing you can ever do. And I got to thinking about it scientifically. And if the entire universe is silence,
beating up a
making
cop.
noise is the most punk thing you can do. It's literally the most rebellious thing you can do. And so, despite our human limitations, we can create things that can exceed that. And what they can do, we can create a robot. There's actually a scientific research program that's going on right now. That's literally 500 years until they actually start recording the results of their program. I'm not going to get into it right now, but the point of all that we do as human beings, the point that all that we do in order to create these things is to live beyond who we are now, and to be able to explore space, to be able to create human beings that can interact with us and make us feel warm and cozy at home, to make us feel safe and secure, to help us lift that box. I think that's really when like I can't emphasize enough, that's when the extension of human ability, technology, is at its utmost, and this is what makes us beyond primates.
So, I have a kind of thought on how I feel about AI and just a little bit in general. Is I feel like as much as we search and voyage for a lot of things, intelligence itself is something that we search for.
Yeah.
Because we feel that we're an intelligent being, and we always search for more intelligent life out there.
Yeah.
If we will.
Which I
We're
think we'll
afraid we're
find.
No,
alone
so
in this.
what I also think though is our fear of slightly and our want for the creation of something more intelligent than ourselves. So we
Something to
try and
guide
create
us.
something, and in an
A
essence,
mother.
Yeah.
it fears us because what we have created may supersede what we know. But inevitably, it's almost like the energy rule. You can't create energy from energy. You can't
Energy
put
doesn't
in.
die. It just
You know what
changes
I-
form.
Create or destroy energy. Just
It's
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
what
you
it
can't
is.
create inevitable energy. You know what I mean? Like renewable energy that just creates going because you can't put in what you're not going to get out more than you put in.
Mhm.
So with intelligence, I feel the same way. We can't put in any more intelligence than we actually are as a human race. We
Yeah.
created AI, but we're afraid of that. We're afraid that maybe we might create something that supersedes our intelligence, but how is that possible with the laws of that?
But it's also
that,
ironic because
know,
we're
like-
we're
Because
creating
you're-
this
you're
thing
applying-
in order to fucking to make
You're
something
applying a
that's
law in
more
the wrong
intelligent than we
place,
are.
You know?
But
the-
but I think it's that capture
Because
if we
it's not
want it.
energy. It's not an energy in, energy output equation that you're talking
No,
about.
I get that,
Like
but-
cognitive thinking, it doesn't work that way.
But we learn from our own intelligence. When we put in something and it creates something that we learn from that, and like
We learn from experiences.
exactly. So if we create an experience to learn from, then how is that going to supersede our own intelligence? Is what I'm getting at. So I think that
because it'll
we
be
have
able
a
to-
problem with fear sometimes that I don't think we
Yeah.
can out educate
A
ourselves.
human
you
can
know?
Final
have
thoughts, Sam.
X number of experiences in their life, right? You can have X number of experiences. Your mind can comprehend Y amount of experiences in a second. A computer doesn't have that limitation. It can experience millions and millions of experiences simultaneously. I can say it's something that could connect to the web. So it's literally living millions of lives and lifetimes worth of experiences in a day. And that, if experiences give you intelligence, is the thing that's going to make it smarter, quote unquote, than us.
With that in mind, hold on real quick. The chess game. Haven't we had a human that's beat the computer chess?
Once, some shit like that.
Exactly. Which means that we tried to create an intelligence that supersedes our chess value, which is the basic of a brain game, if that makes sense. And we've still beat it.
Once.
Well, guys, we're gonna have to go ahead and close this thing out. I would love to talk about this a little bit more off mic. What I am going to talk about is it's fucking crazy that we've all got these very steadfast ideas that we have on what robots should be, and I think we should very much focus on the future, i.e. being robotic rights and how we're going to deal with that. Again, the Wired.com article that I told you guys about, please go and read, because it touches
thing?
it touches on a lot of stuff. And so just go and read that article. It's a very, very worthwhile article. Pretty short, but very well written.
These will all be in the footnotes of the...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They'll be all in the footnotes of the podcast you can find on YouTube, because I am broke and can't expand it to other things. Anyway, I do want to say thank you guys for being here with us. I'm going to ask Joe Dacey, do you have any last thoughts? Anything you want to plug?
Oh, nothing I want to plug. Nothing I want to think about.
All right.
Thought about a lot
What
throughout
do
this
you
last,
think about
2
tonight's
hours.
episode?
Oh,
It's been haunting.
not as scary as I would think.
Okay.
But
Sensational.
my big thing with it is
wondering.
my big thing is I find that I'm somebody that's very different from you guys with this, where I don't need to see like us expand more. I could care if we never go into space again. I think there's plenty
Alright.
here to go through. Like,
All right.
instead of like trying to go through, I keep wanting to say robot wars, but like I think there's gonna be a lot of like broken eggs and all of that. Like, we should just enjoy what we got and just like make it better here. Like,
Yeah.
I want a robot body that I can walk into fucking space with no spacesuit on.
I also want a
All right,
robot
altered
body.
carbon.
I
Fuck
don't
you,
tell
piece
you.
of
Yeah.
shit.
Ron.
But I
was
want one
gonna-
of those just to go into the ocean.
All right.
Like, we still haven't gotten to the bottom of the ocean yet.
Ron, what are your
Yeah, I
last
would go there
thoughts?
in it,
Because
too.
you have
Yeah.
so much to say. What are your last thoughts?
Man, I think primarily.
What'd you
well,
think of the
we need to
podcast?
Well, the podcast. I didn't like the whole darker tone thing you tried to go with. Because
I mean, it's terrifying. Maybe it's not as dark to you guys as it is to me, but it's very fucking scary. The fact that robots can rise up at some point. But again, what are your thoughts on the whole situation?
Like social contracts things or whatever. It's the same avenue that we should be approaching this whole fucking thing with.
Interesting thought.
Yeah, this is like fucking the fucking Erica caught the interviewer off guard. Sure, maybe we shouldn't be like trying to promote them as things to do our lesser jobs. You know, maybe fucking.
Well, we're not promoting them as that. They are definitely going to be doing our lesser jobs. Sean, what are your thoughts on the what do you think?
That's what revolution comes from.
I just think we're still debating over whether or not Terminator, the movie series, is really possible.
Yeah, no,
And that's about it. Like,
the record
it's,
it is possible.
that was made
but-
back when, and it's not as modern as our millennial age or whatever and shit
Yeah.
now and stuff. But now we're like sitting here like, oh, it could be possible again. We made the movies. We keep doing this.
And I don't think people are going to build robots other than the Russians.
We're getting closer.
than to shoot. Like, people aren't going to build robots to shoot each other.
I think as
Well,
much.
that's what I talked about already.
Yeah,
is
no, I mean,
directions.
but we have those that they're showing, but you don't think the military are like,
They definitely got that, but
Yeah.
this is
Motherfucker,
public
100%
access.
have
access
It's
stuff.
programmed to fucking shoot you. Like there's
It's
a difference.
AI. It's still using AI, man. It's just not.
But,
it's just,
yeah,
it's just not a singularity AI. It's not. It's not like a person.
I do.
Right.
Sam, what are your final thoughts? So we got to shut this shit down.
Ron
Shut up,
needs to
Ron.
Shut the fuck up.
Thanks, man. Love you.
Love you, Ron.
Asshole.
So, final thoughts about robots? I
Yeah,
don't think we have a
about
choice.
everything.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Peppa
Like,
Pig.
this is gonna happen. It's gonna happen. We're gonna create these things, and if we can't stay relevant, then we're gonna disappear like anything else that becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way to be relevant, and that just means evolving ourselves somehow. Well, I think that's just going to be a merger between us and technology.
So
And
you
that's
heard
the
that-
only way to do it.
You heard that first from here at the Fourth Corner Productions, Black Sheep and Bad Apples. We are inciting you guys to rise up against your robotic oppressors who will one day try to come for your jobs. I have been your host, Loren O'Brien,
Damn,
Thank you
sounded
guys for
like
being
the
with
Trump
us.
Administration.
for our final iteration of our technological podcast. Again, thank you, Sam, for being here with us. It's
my
great to have
pleasure.
you back, baby. It's good to see you.
Wonderful
And
to
that
be here,
beard.
for sure.
Oh my God, that
I know
beard,
it's
baby.
looking pretty fabulous.
It's sexy.
Yeah. Joe Dacey. Again, thank you as well for being here. Ron,
And nice beard.
we should have mic'd you.
I
That's
wasn't
all I gotta
even
say.
here!
And Sean, the host, the big boss, really of the,
The man on the
whole thing.
board.
Yeah, the man on the board. Thank you
guy
for having
paying
us
the
here at
power
Fourth Corner
bill.
Productions. This is going to be our last episode for the time being of our technological trilogy. Thank you so much, Black Sheep and Bad Apples. I'm Loren O'Brien. Thank you very much. Bye. Yeah.
Dog.